welcome to the latest episode of the SwanBank podcast. My name's Sam, and I'm joined, as I am all the time, by the wonderful Kathryn Stevens. Kathryn, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Sam. The sun is shining in Stoke-on-Trent today, which is always good to see, isn't it?
It is. It's nice. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yes.
As you heard last week, I've been in isolation now this is my last day of isolation. Finally, the sun has come out.
There you go. So Freedom Day is tomorrow for you?
Freedom Day is tomorrow, that's correct.
And I started my incarceration yesterday because I'm now having to isolate too.
Yeah. I have to say, I think more people than I've known before are isolated at the moment, which seems very bizarre.
Just what I was going to say as well. It's like loads of people are, aren't they? We've all been tracked and traced. So, yeah.
How's day one been?
Day one's been fine. I mean, every cloud has a silver lining, doesn't it? So actually, I had arranged to see a lovely couple last night, pastorally. Right. Obviously I couldn't do that because I can't go out. So it meant I could watch the football. So that was nice, wasn't it? You think anyone's listening to this? I mean, can I just say that I did prioritise seeing that couple pastorally.
Well done.
I did prioritise that, and it was, even though I thought, it's a football, I didn't know it's a football when I planned it. But, that's fine.
If I was you, I'd have binned it off.
Well, do you know what I did?
That's the difference between me and you, I think.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody this, right? But I messaged them on Tuesday. I messaged them and just said, it's the football tomorrow night. I'm just checking around if you're football fans because I don't want you to feel that you have to come out if you wanted to watch a football. And they said, oh, no, we're not bothered about football. And then said, are you? And I'm like, no, it's fine. Happy to meet you. Just wanted to double check.
Wow.
So that's commitment.
That's a sign of commitment there. That's very impressive. Wow. I would not have acted in the same way in that situation.
Would you not?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Gosh.
That probably says bad things about me, but we'll just move swiftly on from that.
I was going to say we'll pick that up in supervision.
Great. Looking forward to it. Did you enjoy watching the football last night?
Do you know what we did? Because obviously we're in isolation, so we I said, let's do so we turned the telly. We've got a fairly biggish telly, and we've got French doors, so we turned it so it was in the French doors, and then we sat outside.
How lovely.
I had a little blanket because it wasn't like warm, but it was okay. So lovely. We sat outside on the furniture outside and watched the football, and I kind of had my hands half over my eyes with Harry Kane's penalty, but I did manage to watch it, which is a step up for me because usually when it's penalties, I'm like, I can't watch. So how about you?
Absolutely loved it. It's the most stressed I've been in a very long time.
That's saying something, really, because I mean, you work with me, so you must be stressed quite a lot of time.
I was physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted by 10:30 last night, but absolutely loved it. What a time to be alive!
Yeah. And did you see the beautiful David Beckham, like at the end? Who did you see who he had behind him? Yeah, Gaza was behind him.
Oh yeah.
Gaza had some kind of plaster stuck over his face. I don't know what he's been up to. But yeah. So
absolutely amazing. And I'm not sure what I think about the whole having 60,000 people in the stadium.
Yeah.
But there was something about that atmosphere last night that just
there was a buzz.
There was a real buzz about the place.
And do you think it'll be like that in September when we have our 10:30 service again? Do you think it'll feel
60,000
like 60,000
people
at Wembley?
I think Howard Dobson and the stewards would have a.
Can you imagine?
I think they'd resign on the spot if 60,000 people turned up.
And yet Howard is seems unflappable, so I think he'd just cope.
Would he?
I think he would. I might ask him next time. I'll ask him on Sunday when you see him on Sunday night. Howard, what if? Would that be okay? However, Matt Nixon, who is our health and safety guru, I'm not sure he would be thrilled with that.
Oh, there'd be lots of emails, wouldn't there? Lots of emails. One of the things I really love about Matt Nixon is when he writes emails, you get numbered points in the emails. And I'd like to think how many numbers you'd get to if we
if we did that.
60,000 people started to tell the show.
Matt, if you're listening, just give us an idea. Give us an idea of how many bullet points there would be. He's great.
Who was your man of the match last night?
Well, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because Lloyd and I had a long chat about Sterling, who had a good first half, but Lloyd, right through the second half, was saying, I would take him off. He should be taken off. Lloyd's quite good, you know. He's quite good. Like, he'd say things, and then, like, literally, like, 20 seconds later, the commentator would say it, and he's like, see? And I'm like, so what? I was like, he could be commentating. He'd do quite a good job. So, yeah.
Right.
But, so, I don't know. What did you think of Pickford?
I think he lost his head a bit, did our Jordan.
It was a bit worrying, wasn't it? Some of those, yeah.
These people from Sunderland.
Sunderland boy.
They haven't got the mental strength.
Well, that's really harsh to say, Sam. And I'll have to have words with you about that after our podcast. That's not fair. If anyone's watching from the Northeast, I'm so sorry. He's a southerner. He doesn't know what he's on about, guys.
Did you see, before the game, they showed a picture of Jordan Pickford and Casper, who were the two goalkeepers, in their first professional appearance.
Oh.
They both played for the same club on their first professional game. And it was Darlington.
Really? Wow.
Indeed. That's where they both started there. I thought, what a random place for both of these two goalkeepers to have started there.
It must be the place to start.
Yeah.
And then you just fly from there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Casper was my man of the match. I thought he was unreal.
And it's a great name, isn't it? I mean, who wouldn't want to be called Casper?
Great name.
Yeah.
I thought he was unreal. And I thought
he was
he had
very good.
He was very good. Very good.
He was. Yeah, we would have won by more if it wasn't for him, without a doubt. And actually, when the first half of extra time, we were just so close, weren't we? It was like, but did you not feel? I kept thinking that there were times when, like, we were making a run for it, but there was no one in the box. It's like there was no one there to.
But did you see the size of the Danish defenders? They were all massive, weren't they?
Huge. They were like huge, like Gulliver. Like it was like Gulliver's Travels, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Wasn't he over that way somewhere?
He was, Denmark.
Isn't like Lilliput like the whole like? Isn't it? I don't know. I always imagine it's like somewhere over there.
There's a Gulliver's Land in Milton Keynes. I've been there before.
There's one at Gulliver. Isn't there one at Buxton area as well?
Oh, maybe.
There's like a franchise.
Is there? How wonderful!
I think there's about 3.
Used to go there with my grandparents. Very exciting.
I went there with my boys. Yeah.
Oh, how
there
wonderful.
was a swarm of wasps. I remember that.
Anyway, back to the Danish massive defenders. If you put the ball into the box to Raheem Sterling and you've got 6'8" Yannick Vestergaard in the way, it's just not going to happen, is it? So
I know
they have to try go round the side.
And did you, at times when there was like a free kick or what, do you ever see as many players in one small space? As
crazy.
Like, all there, and even like like lying along the floor at one point when there was a free kick and stuff, in case anyone like tried to get in under. Wow.
They'll be track and trace by tomorrow.
Was the penalty? Yeah, they will. That'll like all be off for Sunday. It's all off. It's not happening. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Oh, Sam.
Oh, Kathryn.
It was going to be really good as well.
Was it?
No.
Oh,
Not at all. I don't think so.
I feel like we should move on from the football. I
think so.
People have probably heard enough about the football. What else exciting has happened in your week this week? Obviously, the whole thing's been building up to last night and football coming home. Anything exciting you've got to report to us?
Anything exciting? Well, I met with my accountability group on Monday and Tuesday, like 24-hour period. I mean, we used to meet up monthly. We used to like have a monthly when I was back in the Northeast.
Until you emigrated.
Until I emigrated, and then we've met up periodically, but obviously we haven't been able to do it for ages. So one of them, it's the first time I've seen it since a year past January.
No way.
I know.
Wow.
So we met up in Leeds of all places.
How lovely.
Yes.
Did you go to that same nice hotel?
No, I didn't. Yeah, the Faulty Towers. We went
With the
to
excellent service.
We went to a cheap Premier Inn.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that was good. Had a very nice Indian meal on Monday night.
Oh, lovely stuff.
Ages since
stuff.
I've been for an Indian. So that was great, and it was really good to catch up with them. Talked a lot around work and that kind of thing. So
good.
that was helpful.
It's good to have people in your life like that. You can.
Yeah.
You're a bit separate from the situation. You can
exactly.
Go and
yeah. But they're all ministers, so they all know that, they all get it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a bit of a unique position, isn't it, to be a minister in the Methodist Church? There's not many other places you could go to for comparison about what it's really like, I suppose, to be a minister, especially minister leading a team and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to get all the wisdom you can, collective wisdom. I think that really matters. Jamie's in isolation.
Is he? Oh, little Jamie.
At Cliff.
Oh, lovely Jamie.
Himself. Yeah.
All by himself. Oh.
Yeah.
What's the situation with the dog at isolation? Is he like running wild or?
Well, he's quite a lazy dog.
Oh, that's fine.
So it's he's quite as long as he's fed. To be honest, he's quite happy. Quite happy. So yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah, but we did wonder about that really. I mean, are you allowed to walk your dog in lockdown when you're in isolation? You were in lockdown, but you were allowed to go out for some exercise then. I don't know if you're still
not allowed
allowed
to go out at all, are you? I'm
Are
sure
you
we
not?
could find a dog walker for you.
Phoebe Borden. She loves animals.
Do it. She's well bored at the moment.
True, that's true.
But she does hate walking, so.
That is true. Yeah.
It's not ideal. Not ideal.
No.
Anyway, there's far too much waffle for today. Far too
much
really
waffle.
Is.
Cut it out. You can edit it out if you need to.
So, because I've been stuck inside, I've watched the news more than I normally would this week for, I don't know, a bit of taste of reality.
The world.
What the world is actually like outside of.
And how's that made you feel?
Out the window. I mean, it didn't fill me with much hope, to be fair.
No.
The sports news has been all right, but you have to sit through quite a lot before you get to that point.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough. One of the particularly tough things that has been in the news this week is the court case that surrounded the murder of, let me get these names
Two girls,
Nicole and Bieber, who were murdered in London, and the sentencing was this week.
Yeah.
It was quite a horrific story around it. But one of the things that particularly stood out to me on the news was after they'd done all the reporting around the sentencing, they played an interview with the two girls' mum, who's called Mina Smallman.
Yeah.
Interestingly, who used to be an archdeacon in the Anglican Church, was the first black archdeacon, apparently. She was archdeacon.
Right. I knew she was archdeacon. I didn't realise she was the first black archdeacon.
Yeah.
Or maybe female. First black female archdeacon, was she?
Oh, maybe.
I don't know, but yeah.
But there was a really fascinating interview with her, obviously filmed before any of the sentencing stuff had happened, and there were some real gems, I think, in that interview of conversation points that would be really helpful for us to explore, I think.
Yeah.
So the little clip I saw on the news was about her having forgiven the guy who was who had murdered the two girls, which is just astounding, isn't it? Really. And then also she was asked some questions about how whether her faith had been shaken by all of this, and how she'd responded in terms of her relationship with God into all this. And one of the things she said was that she felt she was so overcome by grief that she felt unable to pray, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know if you've got any thoughts. Around.
Yeah. I heard her saying that too, and there are times, aren't there, when you hear people saying that they can't pray, I think I've certainly had times in my life when I haven't known how to pray.
Yeah.
Which is that the same as can't pray? maybe, I don't know. Do you think that's the same? If you don't know how to pray, and
It's how you understand. It depends what your approach to prayer is, doesn't it? If your prayer life is all about words that you can articulate, or whether it's about something bigger, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's sometimes the case in our lives, isn't it? When we don't know how to pray for something. But that I can think of a time in my life when I couldn't pray, and that was partly because of situations that were going on that were just so difficult, really, that I was exhausted, I think. And I think that can sometimes be a factor when difficult stuff's going on, particularly in this case that you've raised, deep in grief. Grief is utterly exhausting. It just pulls all of your resources. And so the utter exhaustion of grief, of losing someone close to you, and add in the trauma of the kind of death that they experienced. I mean, that's just utterly devastating, isn't it? So she also says, doesn't she, at one point, that she that she didn't want to carry on, really. And that is that's a response to trauma and grief as well, that is just it's so difficult. I mean, you just can't imagine the experience of that family. But those times when you can't pray can feel really quite isolating, I think, because particularly if you're a person of faith, that if prayer is an integral part of your life, and then suddenly you can't pray anymore, then that is in the midst of awful circumstances, to take away what's sometimes been a bit of a foundational part of your life, just feels like another loss as well, in some ways.
I thought it was really interesting that she talked about she couldn't pray, but her faith hadn't been shaken. So I'm just trying to work through that in my head. I guess you can still have a strong belief in the fact that God is still there and God is still with you, even if you can't articulate or process how to communicate with Him in the midst of that. I guess.
I think that's true, and I think if we only see prayer as a conversation with God, if we see that as being the fact, prayer, and that's our only picture of prayer, then I think we miss out on something, because I mean, you said just a few minutes ago, depend on what prayer is to you, and for me, I think I've learned over the years that prayer can be the unsaid stuff as well. Prayer can be the head in your hands moments, when you feel a little lost to know what to do. Prayer can be the times of tears, and the kind of, the moments when you just, like, even involuntarily, you kind of do a big sigh, which is an expression of maybe that you're weary, or that something's going on that you just can't work your way through yourself. And if we are people as Christians who believe that we have, that we commune with God all the time, whether we're aware of God's presence with us or not all the time, the reality is we believe that God is present with us all the time. Then God is there in the tears and in the sighs and in the head in your hands, as well as in the spoken words and the very articulate prayers that we might pray from time to time as well. So I think to broaden our perspective and our understanding of what prayer actually is, can be a really, really life-giving thing. And I think it's a sign of a maturing Christian faith, when we realize it doesn't need to be in words, doesn't need to be, actually it doesn't always need to be something that we fully understand either, because I think sometimes it's about inviting God into that space, whatever that space might be for us.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that the church has done a very good job of necessarily modelling that individual prayer life very well. I think if you were new to faith and you come into a church context, for example, you'd think our approach to prayer is big, long, well-articulated prayers that go on for a long time and cover all the points that they should cover. Whereas we do that to try and help people to pray in that corporate setting, and but that's not a reflection of what prayer on our own, in our own spaces throughout the day should look like, I don't think.
No, and it's that's certainly not my pattern in my own kind of, in my own personal walk with God. I don't think I've got to tick the boxes of approach and and thanksgiving and praise and confession and absolution and intercession and, do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure I understand what all of those words mean, so we'll move swiftly on from those.
And it's like, but somehow when we get into corporate worship, we somehow. And I guess I do get that from one perspective, that we want to recognize a rounded way of praying. Otherwise, we might always fall into the pattern of only bringing our shopping list to God and not actually taking time to praise God or to thank God or actually to seek forgiveness or whatever it might be. So I think that's quite important. But certainly from my perspective, when it comes to the times when I pray, it's basically whatever's going on in my heart and my head at the time. Do you know what I mean? It's whatever I'm experiencing, whatever I'm feeling, and often it's a like shout out, God, I really need your help in this, because the truth is, several times every day I'm faced with stuff that I think, oh, how am I going to work through this, or what's this going to look like? Oh God, I have no idea how to manage this in a godly way. All those kind of things that are part of our lives, and to a greater or lesser degree, really.
Yeah. And that the corporate prayer stuff is, it's like a microcosm of what the whole of our prayer life should look like. So the things you've mentioned around approach and praise and thanksgiving and confession and petition are all things that should play a part in our sort of rounded week to week prayer life, aren't they? But they're just we try and squash them all in to a service to try and I guess give that rounded picture, like you say. The couple of verses that came to mind just as we were chatting were from Romans 8. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought, but that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. And God, who searches the heart, knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. That's such an encouraging, such an encouraging couple of verses, because it takes the pressure off us. I think it takes the pressure off it having to be a well-crafted, well-articulated form of communication, and actually brings it right down to the very heart, which is a heartfelt response to what we see of God and what we see around us and in the world, which I guess is ultimately what prayer is. Yeah, absolutely. Have you had times in your life when you've really struggled with prayer? Yeah, for sure. Partly, so some of those times I would say would be because of my own stubbornness. So some of those times I've struggled with prayer because I've felt like, oh, I don't need God to come and help me. I can deal with it all on my own because I'm a bloke and I don't need help. And so I shut myself off from prayer. Some of the times that I've really struggled with prayer is when I've been really frustrated with myself and my own actions and my own response to situations, and just struggling to. I guess there's a bit of shame that comes with that, and a shame in coming before God and approaching Him in that way. And I think again, there's something around that is an inability to articulate how you come before God when you feel like you've let yourself down or you've let Him down, and you're not lived up to how He's asked you live. And then the other examples, I guess, would be in times when I just don't know what's going on in my life, and I just feel like a bit of a sense of really being overwhelmed, I think, by the stuff. So I've a few times during lockdown that's certainly come to be, and just again it's really easy to forget that those things like those verses from Romans, which take the pressure off us having to articulate really nice, well thought out prayers. And when you feel overwhelmed by life, it's easy to slip into that, just thinking like your prayers aren't good enough, or your prayers aren't like worthy of God listening to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate in my life where I've not had to deal with major trauma or major grief. So I often listen to people like Mina Smallman and feel a bit in awe of how you respond to that, because honestly, I've no idea how I'd respond in that sort of situation, because I've never sort of had to experience it. But yeah, prayer's not always been an easy thing for me to navigate in my own journey of faith, for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that we should model prayer differently in corporate worship than we have done?
Yes, but I'm not sure what that looks like. So that's a really cop-out answer.
No, it's fine. I'm just thinking through, really. So when our colleague Ellie was working with us, she had a bit of a passion, didn't she, for broadening the prayer experience. So she opened the church once a month on a Saturday, with prayer stations and stuff for people to come and drop in and just engage in prayer in a different way, perhaps a little bit more creatively, or rather than just spoken word. And that's that's something I've done in my past ministry as well, is set up prayer spaces and that kind of thing. And people have really appreciated that.
For sure.
But I think in a more, in the setting in which we're at the moment, a more evangelical setting, I'm not sure that that we've always approached the prayer experience in the breadth that we could.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that we try to do in our small group, is try and so we normally meet together for food, share a bit of Bible study, and then pray together at the end. And we started to introduce praying for people individually, and that took literally forever, because we'd go around each of the 10 people that were there and say, what's going on in your life? Right, a couple of people pray, and then we'll move on. We had some really powerful moments doing that, but like, you're there till midnight every week. It just feels a bit much for people. But what we've started to try and encourage is to get people to see so people sharing what's going on for them during the week, what they're thankful for, what they're struggling with, to see that whole conversation as part of our praying together. So it's not like we share what's going on and then we all pray for it. The whole conversation is not only bringing those things before one another, but bringing those things before God. And that doesn't just go for the like shopping list things of here's what I need help with. It's this is what I'm really thankful for. And so rather than having to like go through and write everyone's things down and making sure you mention them all in the prayer at the end, so nobody feels left out, it's more about seeing the whole conversation as not just being something for us, but God being involved in that conversation.
That's great.
Same
actually,
ways we might do when we close our eyes, about us bringing those things before God, which I think is helpful. And in my church growing up, it was not a big congregation, so there was a bit more freedom to do some more creative prayer. But one of the things we used to do every week was walk around with a microphone and get people to share their joys and concerns from the week just gone or the week ahead. And that was, to do that in a corporate setting was really powerful. And people always really valued that, actually. Some people liked it because they got to have a nosy of what was going on in each other's lives. But for the most part, it was come out in like a really healthy and prayerful attitude, which I thought was that modeled some really good stuff to me, I think, about the value of bringing your struggles but also your joys before the whole community of faith, not feeling like you have to keep them for yourself.
And that's really important, isn't it? Because we're not just individual Christians, and so it just I think it reminds us about the corporate nature of our walk with God, and also of our prayer lives as well. And so so we in the sharing, then you're drawing others into the praying, aren't you, as well, which feels really real and important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Just as we close off, I'm going to put you on the spot. I want your 3 top tips for a well-rounded personal prayer life.
Oh
Go.
gosh, Sam, I feel like a right hypocrite now, because I really that was a funny laugh. Because I really have to work at that sometimes.
3 top tips for yourself to get a better, well-rounded.
Yeah.
prayer life.
I think. Do you know what I'm going to say? Which might be a cop out, but I think find something that works for you.
Yeah.
Find something that works for you. So very, very quick story. I've got a friend who is a Methodist minister. He's in his 60s now, and he for years felt guilty about not having that sit down, quiet time, and felt quite inadequate about it, and really battled with it and tried it, but just didn't. And then he discovered that actually he prayed best when he was out walking. So now actually every morning he walks 2 miles. At 8 o'clock in the morning he walks 2 miles, sometimes earlier than that. And he does the same route every day, so he doesn't have to think about where he's going. He knows exactly where he's going. He's got this route that, from his house back to his house, and he just basically thinks about everything that's in his head, really. Whether it's work, whether it's what he's seen on the news, whether it's family, whether it's just what a beautiful day it is today, whatever it is. And that's become so I think find something that works for the kind of person you are. Don't feel you have to pray like your friend does or whoever does, because we're all different. So what works for one doesn't always work for others. I think that's one of my tips. I think the other would be, God knows it all anyway. So it's about bringing our hearts and our honesty to God, I think, in prayer. And I would also say my other top tip would be, don't neglect corporate prayer, because I think that can inform our own personal prayer as well.
Love it. Okay. Great stuff. I think there's the thing of that example, which I really like, and probably mirrors my own experience of prayer as well, is sometimes the most effective prayers are prayers that are prayed when you remove yourself from the busyness and the chaos.
Yeah.
And so, for me, the sort of peak, if you like, of my prayer life during lockdown was when I was running 3 or 4 times a week, and so that was an hour.
Yeah.
And most of the time was just having a conversation with God, and that was because it was so far removed from being stuck inside and the stress of work and family, whatever. So I do, and I think that's a very Christ-like example as well. Actually, so
and I think as well, I think listening. We haven't talked much about listening, but listening is a really important part of prayer as well. And so if we want to hear from God, we've got to listen, and it's so it's building in those, like you said, those spaces to hear.
And if you want to invest in your own prayer life, then there is a whole section on the website which has got a load of resources from the month of prayer that we did last year. So there's some people from around the life of the church sharing about various aspects of prayer, various approaches to prayer. There's some stuff for you to help you pray as families, to do some prayer like journaling, prayer walking. There's all sorts of things on there. So if you go to swanbank.org.uk/prayer, there's all sorts of stuff there that you can go and have a little gander at.
Great.
But I think that's plenty for today.
It
Kathryn,
absolutely is.
Thank you so much for chatting as always, and we'll be back as normal next week, hopefully in the same room. Maybe. We'll see. All right. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.